On a cold, eerie Halloween night, a woman sat alone in her cozy living room, engrossed in a chilling horror movie. She was surrounded by the soft glow of jack-o'-lanterns, their flickering faces casting dancing shadows around the room. The television screen, the only other source of light, painted her face in an eerie blue hue. Outside, the wind howled like a pack of wolves, rustling the autumn leaves and making the old wooden house creak. She was lost in the world of horror on the screen, her heart pounding in time with the suspenseful music. But then, a sound pulled her from the cinematic terror. A knock. It was a sound that echoed through the house, cutting through the film's climax like a knife. It jolted her out of her movie-induced trance, her heart skipping a beat. A knock echoed through the house, freezing the blood in her veins. Who could it be, she wondered, on such a night? With a pounding heart and a curious mind, she decided to investigate the source of the noise. The rapid throb of her pulse echoed in her ears, keeping time with the eerie rhythm of the nocturnal chorus outside. A symphony of crickets, the occasional hoot of an owl, and the relentless ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway were her only companions on this chilling Halloween night. As she rose from the comfortable cocoon of her worn-out armchair, the room seemed to close in around her. The flickering light from the television cast long, sinister shadows that lurked in the corners, turning ordinary household objects into nefarious specters. The dim glow of the pumpkin-scented candle, once a source of cozy ambiance, now seemed to lend an eerie pallor to the room. Her bare feet touched the cold wooden floor, each creaking board a chilling reminder of the solitude that surrounded her. The house seemed to echo with her every movement, amplifying her sense of unease. She crept towards the door, the journey seeming longer than ever before, her dread growing with each step. The chill of the doorknob seeped through her trembling fingers as she reached out, the metallic coldness a stark contrast against her warm skin. The second knock came, just as her hand made contact with the doorknob. Louder, more insistent, a demanding presence in the quiet of the night. It was as if the knock itself had a life of its own, an entity demanding entry, demanding attention. She paused, her breath hitching in her throat. The sound of her own heartbeat drowned out the other noises of the night. Fear gripped her, a cold hand clutching at her heart. Yet the spark of curiosity refused to be extinguished. Who or what could be at her door on this frightful night? Another knock, louder, more insistent. She reached for the door, fear and curiosity warring within her. The moment of decision was upon her. She was on the precipice, caught in a delicate dance between the desire to know and the primal instinct to protect herself. The fear was real, but so was the curiosity. And so, with a deep breath, she turned the knob. Slowly, she opened the door, bracing herself for what she might find. Her heart pounded like a drum in her chest, the rhythm echoing in her ears as she peered into the darkness beyond the threshold. What met her gaze was not the monster she'd imagined, but emptiness, an abyss of nothing, save for the quiet, deserted street bathed in the faint glow of a distant street lamp. A few dried leaves skittered across the pavement, carried by the wind that whispered through the barren trees. The night was as silent as a graveyard, the only sound the distant hooting of an owl and the rustle of leaves. A wave of confusion washed over her, mingling with a sense of relief that left her knees weak. The street was devoid of any sign of life, not a soul in sight. The wind picked up, carrying with it the chill of the autumn night and the scent of damp earth. The leaves rustled louder, like soft whispers carried on the breeze. The world outside was eerily quiet, as though holding its breath in anticipation. She allowed herself a moment to breathe, her heart rate slowly returning to normal. The fear began to recede, replaced by a sense of bewilderment. What was happening? Was her mind playing tricks on her? Could she have imagined the knocking? She stepped back into the warm safety of her house, leaving the open doorway and the silent street behind. Just as she was about to dismiss the entire ordeal as a figment of her overactive imagination, the sound echoed once more. The knock. Clear, distinct, undeniable. But this time, it wasn't from the front door. This time, it came from inside the house. The sound reverberated through the silent halls, a chilling reminder that she was not alone. The relief she had felt moments ago evaporated instantly, replaced by a bone-deep dread that made her blood run cold. Relief washed over her, leaving in its wake a sense of confusion. But then, the knock echoed again, this time from within the house. Fear gripped her once more as she realized the source of the knock was from inside her home. The chilling realization sent a jolt of terror coursing through her veins, her heart pounding a grim rhythm in her chest. The house, her refuge, was now a labyrinth of fear, every shadow a potential threat, every creak a harbinger of dread. She set out on a frantic search, every corner of the house a new chapter in this nightmarish saga. The once familiar rooms now seemed alien, echoing with the sinister rhythm of the knock. It was a taunting beat, growing louder, more insistent, a relentless reminder of the unseen terror lurking within her walls. The living room, where she had been comfortably watching a horror movie, now seemed to be a scene from one. The knock reverberated around her, the sound bouncing off the walls, making it impossible to pinpoint its origin. Fear played tricks on her mind, making her see shapes in the shadows, hear whispers in the silence. The kitchen, her sanctuary where she created meals filled with love, was now a cold, sterile place. The metallic clatter of utensils seemed to amplify the knock, each strike echoing in her ears. Her hand shook as she reached for a knife, a pitiful defense against the unknown. In her bedroom, where she found rest and solace, the knock took on a more menacing tone. It was closer now, louder, more determined. The soft glow of her bedside lamp seemed to flicker in rhythm with the knock, casting long, ominous shadows that danced on the walls. The bathroom, a place of solitude and peace, was now a claustrophobic trap. The knock seemed to resonate off the tiles, creating an eerie symphony of fear. She dared not look in the mirror, scared of what she might see. She searched, fear clawing at her, as the knocking continued, a sinister soundtrack to her nightmare. The house was no longer a home, but a prison, the walls closing in on her with every knock. The unseen threat was inside, and there was no escape. As she entered her kitchen, she found the source of the terrifying knocking. The room was bathed in the pale glow of the moon, casting long, eerie shadows that danced and flickered with the sway of the wind. The haunting melody of the wind whispered through the room, carrying with it the chilling echo of the relentless knocking. There, in the corner, was a window, slightly ajar, swinging back and forth in the gusts of the autumn wind. Each gust pushed the window against the frame, creating the ominous knocking sound that had filled her with such dread. The realization washed over her like a wave, bringing with it a sense of relief and a hint of embarrassment. She moved towards the window, her fingers brushing against the cold glass, feeling the force of the wind against it. She laughed, a soft, relieved sound that echoed in the silent room. It was just a window left open on a windy Halloween night. The source of her terror, the phantom knocker, was nothing more than a gust of wind and her own imagination. She could not help but chuckle at her own fear. The scary movie she had been watching, the eerie atmosphere of Halloween night, had all conspired to transform an innocent noise into a terrifying specter. The adrenaline that had been coursing through her veins began to recede, replaced by an overwhelming sense of relief and amusement. She closed the window, the room falling silent once again, save for the distant hum of the television from the living room. She took a moment, leaning against the windowsill, her laughter still echoing in her ears. She had faced her fear, confronted the unknown, and emerged victorious. It was a Halloween night she would never forget. There it was, a window left ajar, banging in the wind. She laughed, relief washing over her as she realized her own imagination had turned a harmless noise into a terrifying ordeal. With a sigh of relief, she returned to her living room, ready to continue her movie. Her heart rate began to normalize, the adrenaline from the previous scare subsiding, replaced by a newfound sense of calm. She sank into the comfort of her couch, the familiar scent of its fabric wrapping her up in its reassuring embrace. The flickering screen of her television lit the room with an eerie glow, mirroring the Halloween ambiance outside. She reached for the remote, her fingers grazing its cool surface. But before she could press play, the tranquility of the moment was shattered. Another knock sounded, shattering the silence, echoing through the walls of her home. It was a sound that seemed to resonate from the very pits of her worst nightmares, a reminder that the night of terror was far from over. Just as she was about to press play, another knock echoed through the house, freezing her blood once more. But this time, it was from her front door. Y'all, we're wrapping up here, but don't you go anywhere just yet. Show some love, hit that like button. Fancy more content like this? Go on, subscribe and let that bell icon ring so you won't miss a beat. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, sharing is caring. Until next time, stay tuned.